Have you ever witnessed a courtroom where justice seemed to wear a blindfold, where power and money held the scales, tipping them precariously? Could a young lawyer, no matter how talented and principled, single-handedly stand against a colossal corporation and the shadowy forces lurking behind it? The answer will gradually unfold in this narrative, where each unfolding event is a crucial piece of a larger, intricate puzzle. Courtroom number 7 was packed, the air thick with a palpable tension that could almost be tasted. Jasmine Crockett, sharp in a tailored navy blue suit, her dark hair pulled back in a severe but elegant bun, entered with the quiet confidence of a predator entering its domain. Her gaze, keen and unwavering, swept across the crowded gallery before settling on the imposing figures representing Helix Corporation. Beside a phalanx of polished lawyers sat Charles Whitmore, the corporation's chairman, his face an impassive mask that hinted at a ruthless nature simmering beneath the surface. "All rise," the bailiff's voice boomed through the room. Judge William Carter made his entrance, his demeanor exuding a practiced air of authority, though a subtle flicker of arrogance crossed his features as he glanced towards Jasmine. "Miss Crockett," Judge Carter began, his tone laced with a barely concealed condescension, "your case seems rather ambitious, wouldn't you agree? A handful of disgruntled former employees against a multinational giant? I fear this might be a regrettable waste of the court's valuable time." Jasmine remained unfazed, her voice clear and firm as she addressed the bench. "Your Honor, we are here to seek justice for individuals who were unjustly terminated by Helix Corporation. We possess evidence demonstrating a blatant disregard for labor laws on the part of this corporation." Whitmore allowed a faint, almost imperceptible smirk to play on his lips, a cold, humorless curve. He regarded Jasmine as one might observe an ant daring to challenge an elephant, a fleeting annoyance rather than a genuine threat. Even before the first official hearing concluded, unsettling incidents began to occur, casting a long shadow over Jasmine's resolve. Anonymous phone calls, the caller's voice a distorted whisper, delivered veiled threats, warning her to abandon her pursuit. She developed the unnerving sensation of being watched, a constant awareness of unseen eyes following her on her commute home, lingering in the periphery of her vision. One night, while working late in her dimly lit office, a fleeting shadow, the distinct silhouette of a tall man, flickered past the frosted glass of her office door. A chill of fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her professional composure, yet it served only to galvanize her determination. She understood that she had embarked on a perilous path, one fraught with unseen dangers, but she could not turn back. The livelihoods and dignity of the wronged workers, and perhaps a deeper, more sinister secret, lay waiting to be unearthed. The initial days of the trial were a masterclass in subtle obstruction. Judge Carter, with a practiced neutrality that barely concealed his bias, consistently ruled against Jasmine's motions. Requests for discovery, crucial documents that could shed light on Helix Corp's internal dealings, were denied with flimsy justifications. Objections raised by Jasmine regarding the defense's tactics were routinely overruled, while similar objections from the opposing counsel were upheld with undue haste. It was a frustrating dance, a legal battle fought on an uneven playing field where the judge himself seemed to be an active participant on the opposing team. Jasmine noticed the subtle cues, the almost imperceptible nods exchanged between Judge Carter and Whitmore's lead counsel, the way Carter's gaze would linger on Whitmore with a hint of deference. These small details, seemingly insignificant on their own, painted a disturbing picture of a compromised judiciary, a system where justice could be swayed by influence and power. The pressure mounted outside the courtroom as well. The feeling of being watched intensified. On several occasions, Jasmine spotted a dark sedan parked across the street from her apartment building, its occupants remaining hidden in the tinted shadows. One evening, as she walked to her car after a late night at the office, two figures emerged from the darkness, their faces obscured by the low light. They didn't speak, but their menacing presence, their deliberate blocking of her path, sent a clear and chilling message. Back down. Despite the mounting pressure and the palpable threats, Jasmine refused to yield. The faces of the workers she represented, their stories of hardship and injustice, fueled her determination. She had looked into their eyes, seen their desperation and their unwavering hope in her ability to fight for them. She couldn't betray that trust. She knew deep down that this case was about more than just a group of dismissed employees seeking compensation. There was a larger, more insidious conspiracy at play, a web of deceit and corruption that reached far beyond the walls of Helix Corporation. And Jasmine Crockett, armed with her sharp intellect, unwavering ethics, and a growing sense of unease, was determined to unravel it, no matter the personal cost. The subtle mockery in the judge's voice during the initial hearing, the dismissive tone he adopted towards her case, now echoed in her mind, not as a source of discouragement, but as a fuel for her unwavering resolve. She would prove him wrong. She would expose the truth, even if it meant standing alone against the formidable might of Helix Corp and its powerful allies. The trap had been set, but Jasmine was not just a fly caught in its sticky threads. She was a spider weaving her own counterplot in the shadows. In the oppressive darkness of conspiracies and deceit, a fragile ray of hope pierced through the gloom. Would Jasmine be able to grasp this fleeting opportunity before the shadows closed in completely, extinguishing its light forever? Jasmine meticulously pieced together the fragmented clues she had gathered, the scattered snippets of information gleaned from former employees of Helix Corporation. Each conversation, each hushed anecdote, was a breadcrumb on a treacherous trail. Finally, the name Daniel Reed surfaced with increasing frequency, whispered with a mixture of fear and a glimmer of desperate hope. He had been a high-ranking financial executive within the corporation, a man who had once held the keys to the very secrets Charles Whitmore so desperately wanted to keep buried. With a combination of tenacious research and the discreet assistance of a contact in the private investigation sector, Jasmine managed to locate Daniel Reed's whereabouts. He lived a secluded life in a modest house nestled in a quiet, unassuming neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. The address felt like a fragile lead, a potential turning point in her uphill battle. Taking a deep breath, Jasmine approached the front door, her heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. She raised her hand and knocked, the sound echoing in the still afternoon air. After a moment that stretched into an eternity, the door creaked open, revealing a man in his late 50s, his face etched with weariness and a palpable anxiety that seemed to cling to him like a shroud. Dark circles underscored his eyes, and his shoulders slumped with the weight of some unseen burden. "Mr. Reed?" Jasmine inquired, her voice calm and measured, yet carrying an underlying note of determination. Daniel looked at her with suspicion clouding his gaze, his eyes darting nervously around as if expecting unseen observers. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice raspy and hesitant. "My name is Jasmine Crockett. I am the attorney representing the former employees of Helix Corporation. I believe you possess information that could be crucial to our case." A flicker of fear crossed Daniel's face, his gaze becoming even more guarded. He glanced furtively over his shoulder, as if the very walls had ears. I don't know what you're talking about, he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. We know about the off-the-books accounts you managed, the illicit funds used for bribery and to silence inconvenient lawsuits. You have proof, don't you, Mr. Reed? Documentation, records, something that can expose the truth about what's been happening at Helix Corporation. Jasmine pressed gently, her eyes conveying both empathy and unwavering resolve. Daniel sighed, a deep, weary sound that spoke volumes of the internal conflict raging within him. He ran a trembling hand through his thinning hair. I've tried to forget all of it. Whitmore, he's not a man you can cross. He has eyes everywhere, influence that reaches into every corner. But those workers, Mr. Reed, they've lost their jobs, their livelihoods. They've been treated unjustly. They need your help to fight back, to reclaim what was stolen from them. Jasmine's voice held a persuasive edge, appealing to his sense of morality, to whatever sense of right and wrong might still reside within him. After a prolonged period of tense silence, punctuated only by Daniel's ragged breaths, a flicker of resolve appeared in his eyes. The weight of his secret seemed to be crushing him, and the prospect of finally unburdening himself, of contributing to justice, seemed to offer a sliver of redemption. He finally agreed to meet with Jasmine the following day at a discreet location, promising to provide her with the information and documentation she sought. As Jasmine left his house, a fragile sense of optimism bloomed in her chest. This could be the breakthrough she desperately needed. The encounter with Daniel Reed presented a significant opportunity for Jasmine. His potential testimony and the evidence he claimed to possess represented a powerful weapon against Helix Corp., a direct assault on Whitmore's carefully constructed wall of lies and deceit. However, Daniel's palpable fear and anxiety served as a stark reminder of the immense power Whitmore wielded and the lengths to which he would likely go to protect his secrets. The fragile hope that now flickered within Jasmine was tempered by the knowledge that she and Daniel were walking a dangerous path, one where the stakes were incredibly high. The nascent hope, so carefully nurtured, was brutally extinguished. A shocking event occurred, plunging Jasmine into a desperate race against time, a perilous sprint not only against powerful adversaries, but also against the looming specter of death itself. The following morning, as Jasmine drove towards the prearranged meeting point with Daniel, her phone buzzed insistently. She glanced at the caller ID, an unknown number. Hesitantly, she answered. A distorted voice, cold and devoid of emotion, echoed from the other end of the line. Ms. Crockett, we regret to inform you that Mr. Reed has been involved in an accident, a most unfortunate incident. The line then went dead, leaving Jasmine with a chilling premonition. Her blood ran cold. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She frantically tried to call Daniel back, her fingers fumbling with her phone, but there was no answer. A sickening feeling settled in the pit of her stomach. She knew, with a certainty that defied logic but resonated deep within her, that this was no accident. News of Daniel Reed's death spread quickly through the local news channels. A fatal single-car collision on the northbound highway. The official police report cited driver error, stating that Reed had likely fallen asleep at the wheel. But Jasmine didn't buy it for a second. The timing was too convenient, too perfectly aligned with her meeting. This was Whitmore's handiwork. She was sure of it. A brutal and efficient silencing of a potential witness. Driven by a mixture of grief and a burning desire for justice, Jasmine decided to conduct her own investigation. Enlisting the help of her private investigator contact, she managed to gain access to Daniel Reed's now sealed office. The room was sterile and silent, the air thick with the lingering scent of dust and forgotten memories. Yet, despite its apparent emptiness, Jasmine could sense the presence of a hidden truth, a secret that still clung to the walls. She meticulously searched every corner, every drawer, every file cabinet. Hours passed, the silence broken only by the rustling of papers and Jasmine's determined breaths. Finally, hidden beneath a loose floorboard beneath Daniel's desk, she discovered a small, unassuming external hard drive. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. This had to be it, the evidence Daniel had promised. Just as she clutched the hard drive in her hand, the office door burst open with a violent crash. Two shadowy figures, their faces concealed by dark ski masks, stormed into the room, their movements swift and menacing. "Drop it," one of them growled, his voice muffled by the mask. Jasmine knew she couldn't fight them head-on. Her mind raced, searching for an escape route, but they had effectively blocked the only exit. Acting on instinct, she quickly shoved the hard drive inside her jacket, securing it against her chest. The two intruders lunged at her, their hands reaching out, grabbing for the evidence. A fierce struggle ensued, a desperate ballet of flailing limbs and muffled grunts in the confined space. One of the masked figures landed a heavy blow to Jasmine's head, and the world around her dissolved into a swirling vortex of darkness. The death of Daniel Reed and the subsequent ambush in his office were devastating setbacks for Jasmine. Whitmore had moved swiftly and ruthlessly to eliminate a key witness and retrieve the incriminating evidence. However, despite the brutal attack, Jasmine had managed to secure the hard drive, a small victory in the face of overwhelming odds. But now, she was unconscious, held captive by Whitmore's thugs, the precious evidence hidden beneath her unconscious form. Her situation was dire. The race against death had truly begun. Awakening in the cold, oppressive darkness, Jasmine found herself face to face with her most formidable adversary. Could she possibly escape this deadly trap and bring the truth to light before it was too late? Jasmine's eyelids fluttered open, her head throbbing with a dull, persistent ache. Disorientation washed over her as she struggled to make sense of her surroundings. She was bound tightly to a rickety wooden chair, the rough rope biting into her wrists and ankles. The air was damp and carried the musty odor of decay and neglect. She was in a large, dilapidated warehouse, the only source of light a single bare bulb hanging precariously from the ceiling, casting long, distorted shadows that danced across the grimy concrete walls. A voice, low and menacing, echoed from the darkness behind her. "Welcome back, Ms. Crockett. You've been quite the persistent little problem." Charles Whitmore stepped into the dim light, his face illuminated by the harsh glare of the single bulb. A cold, predatory smile stretched across his lips, his eyes glinting with a chilling mix of amusement and menace. "I must admit, I was rather hoping you would have taken the hint after Mr. Reed's unfortunate demise. But it seems my attempts at persuasion were insufficient." "Were you afraid of what he was going to tell me, Whitmore?" Jasmine retorted, her voice surprisingly steady despite her precarious situation. She refused to show him her fear, to give him the satisfaction of knowing he had broken her spirit. Whitmore chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Afraid? No, Ms. Crockett, merely efficient. Loose ends tend to unravel carefully constructed plans. And your little crusade was becoming quite the nuisance. However," he continued, his tone shifting to one of mock generosity, "I am a reasonable man. I am willing to offer you another opportunity. Abandon this ridiculous lawsuit, and I will ensure you have a very bright future in the legal profession. Partnership at a prestigious firm, a generous salary, all within your reach. Of course. His eyes narrowed, the smile vanishing. The alternative, as you are now acutely aware, can be rather unpleasant. Accidents do happen, wouldn't you agree? Just ask Mr. Reed. Jasmine stared directly into Whitmore's eyes, a look of utter contempt etched on her face. You think money can buy everything, don't you? Even justice. Whitmore regarded her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, with a subtle nod, he gestured to the two hulking figures who had ambushed her in Daniel's office, now standing silently in the shadows. Such idealism. So tiresome. See to her. The two men moved towards Jasmine, their intentions clear. But Whitmore had underestimated her. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, fueled by desperation and a fierce will to survive, Jasmine lunged forward, the sharp edge of a concealed letter opener, which she had managed to slip into her sleeve earlier, glinting in her hand. She swiftly sawed through the ropes binding her wrists. Before her captors could react, Jasmine kicked out, sending one of them stumbling backwards. The other lunged, but Jasmine twisted in the chair, narrowly avoiding his grasp. The sound of approaching sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder with each passing second. Someone must have heard the commotion and called the police. Whitmore's face tightened with fury. "Get out of here!" he hissed at his men, who quickly disappeared into the shadows. Jasmine, her wrists raw and bleeding, scrambled out of the chair and stumbled towards the warehouse door, disappearing into the night just as the first police car screeched to a halt outside. Jasmine's daring escape from Whitmore's clutches was a testament to her resourcefulness and unwavering determination. The hard drive remained safely hidden. The direct confrontation with Whitmore had confirmed his ruthlessness and the extent of his corruption, but it had also solidified Jasmine's resolve to bring him to justice. The sound of the approaching sirens signaled a potential rescue, but Jasmine knew the fight was far from over. Whitmore was still out there, and he would stop at nothing to protect his secrets. The bloody bargain he had offered, the implicit threat to her life, only strengthened her commitment to exposing the truth. The day of final judgment had arrived, hanging heavy with anticipation. Would the scales of justice finally tip in favor of the wronged, or would the insidious grip of power and wealth once again prevail, leaving truth and righteousness as mere casualties? The tension in courtroom number 7 was almost unbearable. Every seat was filled, the air thick with a silent expectancy. Jasmine Crockett stood tall and resolute, her gaze fixed on Judge Carter as he prepared to deliver his verdict. Beside her, the former employees of Helix Corp sat with a mixture of hope and trepidation etched on their faces. On the other side of the courtroom, Charles Whitmore maintained a facade of calm confidence, though a subtle tremor in his hand betrayed the anxiety simmering beneath his composed exterior. His team of high-powered lawyers sat beside him, their expressions carefully neutral. Judge Carter cleared his throat, the sound amplified by the microphone, cutting through the hushed silence. He began to summarize the case, his words carefully chosen, yet his inherent bias towards Helix Corp was palpable in his tone and the way he framed the arguments. He meticulously recounted the defense's narrative, highlighting the supposed financial difficulties of the corporation and the unfortunate but necessary layoffs. When he addressed the plaintiff's case, his tone shifted, becoming dismissive and almost condescending, downplaying the evidence presented by Jasmine and emphasizing the lack of concrete proof of wrongdoing. Jasmine listened intently, her heart pounding with a growing sense of dread. It seemed as though Judge Carter was about to deliver the verdict she had feared all along, a verdict dictated not by law and justice, but by influence and corruption. Whitmore allowed himself a small, almost imperceptible smile, a flicker of triumph in his cold eyes. As Judge Carter reached the crescendo of his summation, preparing to pronounce his judgment, Jasmine took a deep breath and stood up. Her movement, though subtle, drew the attention of everyone in the courtroom. "Your Honor," she began, her voice clear and strong, cutting through the tense silence. "I have a piece of crucial evidence that I believe the court needs to consider before reaching a final verdict." She held up a small USB drive, the plastic casing gleaming under the courtroom lights. This drive contains the complete financial records of Helix Corp., meticulously extracted from the hard drive of the late Daniel Reed, the corporation's former chief financial officer. These records irrefutably demonstrate a pattern of systemic corruption, money laundering, and, most disturbingly, direct evidence of Mr. Whitmore ordering the assassination of a key witness in this very case. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. The air crackled with disbelief and shock. Whitmore's composure finally began to crack, a flicker of panic replacing his confident demeanor. Judge Carter's face flushed crimson, his eyes widening in alarm. "Ms. Crockett," Judge Carter stammered, his voice losing its earlier authoritative tone, "I will not allow this kind of theatrics in my courtroom. This is highly irregular. You should have presented any new evidence before." Jasmine did not let him finish. With a determined glint in her eyes, she pressed a button on a small remote control she held in her hand. Instantly, the large video screen mounted on the courtroom wall flickered to life. The Helix Corp logo appeared briefly, followed by a grainy video. The courtroom watched in stunned silence as the image resolved, revealing Daniel Reed sitting in what appeared to be his home office, his face pale and etched with fear. In a shaky voice, he recounted in detail the illegal activities he had witnessed and been a part of at Helix Corp., implicating Whitmore directly in numerous criminal acts. The video then transitioned to another recording, seemingly captured by a hidden camera. The image showed Charles Whitmore in a dimly lit room, his face contorted with anger as he spoke to two shadowy figures. His words, though chillingly calm, were unmistakable. "Reed knows too much. He needs to be taken care of permanently. Make it look like an accident." A deathly silence descended upon the courtroom. The only sound was the faint hum of the video projector. Every eye was glued to the screen, witnessing the undeniable truth of Whitmore's guilt. The carefully constructed facade of Helix Corp., the image of a respectable multinational, shattered into a million pieces before their very eyes. Suddenly, the courtroom doors burst open, and a team of uniformed police officers rushed in. Their eyes immediately went to Charles Whitmore. "Charles Whitmore, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and obstruction of justice," a police captain announced, his voice firm and authoritative. The officers moved swiftly, placing handcuffs on a stunned and ashen-faced Whitmore. Another group of officers approached Judge Carter, who was now visibly trembling. "Judge William Carter, you are being placed under investigation for suspicion of conspiracy and obstruction of justice in connection with this case. Please come with us." A wave of relief and elation washed over the former employees of Helix Corporation. Tears streamed down their faces as they embraced each other, their long ordeal finally coming to an end. Justice against all odds had prevailed. Jasmine Crockett watched the scene unfold, a profound sense of satisfaction settling within her. She had faced threats, intimidation, and the seemingly insurmountable power of a corrupt corporation and a compromised judge, but she had persevered. Vik Tit Lo Bang Chung Video Tuo Kung Qua Daniel Reed Veo Phut Chat De Jong Mot Don Quiet Din. Kak Hot Dong Toi Pham Duok Che Jiao Can Then Qua Whitmore De Bai Phoi Bai Cho Moi Nuoi Thay. Dan Den Vik Bat Ju Nai Lap Tu Si Va Tam Fan Carter by Du Tra Vi Toi Dong Loa. The 11th hour revelation of the video evidence from Daniel Reed's hard drive delivered the decisive blow. Whitmore's carefully concealed criminal activities were exposed for all to see, leading to his immediate arrest and the investigation of Judge Carter for his complicity. The victory was not just a legal one. It was a triumph of truth over lies, of courage over corruption, and a powerful affirmation that even the most formidable forces of injustice can be overcome. Ka Chuen Nai La Loi Nak No Man Mi Rang Nai Ca Kai Doi Mat Voi and Hung Ko Kan Tuong Chung Nu Kong The Vut Qua. Tvik Theo Duit Song Ly Van La Mo Ti Kuok Chien Dang De Chien Dao. Su Gwin Ru Qua Gwin Luke Va On Hung The Hoa Qua Dong Tien Ko The Tao Ra and Hung Tsai Bong Dai. Che Kwatsu That Va Tao Tung He Thong. And Hung Koi Kung Chung Kong The Dap Tat Duok Kat Vong Von Ko Qua Tin. Then Kan Nuoi Vi Su Tsong Bang Va Chin Nia. This story serves as a potent reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, the pursuit of justice is a fight worth fighting. The allure of power and the corrupting influence of money can cast long shadows, obscuring the truth and manipulating the system, but they cannot ultimately extinguish the human spirit's inherent yearning for fairness and righteousness. As the esteemed Nelson Mandela wisely stated, after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. Jasmine Crockett's victory was a significant milestone, but she knew that the battle against corruption and injustice is an ongoing one, a continuous climb towards a more equitable society. Her unwavering courage and relentless pursuit of truth stand as an inspiration, demonstrating that even a single individual, armed with integrity and determination, can challenge and dismantle deeply entrenched systems of wrongdoing. The echoes of justice, though sometimes faint, can resonate powerfully enough to shatter the walls of deceit and bring accountability to those who believe themselves above the law. If you found this story compelling and inspiring, please take a moment to show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel for more captivating and thought-provoking narratives. Share this video with your friends and family to help spread the message about the importance of justice and the power of courage in the face of adversity. We encourage you to leave a comment below, sharing your thoughts and reactions to Jasmine's incredible journey and the ultimate triumph of truth. Click on the suggested video to continue your journey with us.